Tom, the holidays are over.
Oh, we have to come back.
After 22 weeks in Palma, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling jaded, Willie. Jaded. But no, it's great to be back.
Nice summer.
Lovely summer.
Yeah.
Daughter got married. You were there. It was brilliant. So that's it. I've no more kids on the payroll, Willie.
Right. Are you back with the batteries charged, ready to rock and roll?
I am ready to go.
Well, obviously, since we've been away, a lot's been happening in relation to business and what's happening there in the economy. So I thought we'd start off with a wee bit of good news.
Right. Let's go.
Fantastic news about the potential of a new 10 billion order from Norway to build ships again in the Clyde BAE systems.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Wow. So, you know, I was reading about this and I thought Norway was actually built its own ships, but obviously not. But what a boost for UK and for Scotland, Glasgow, Govan, and maybe a bit at Babcock, at Rosyth as well.
Yeah.
And they're building these Type 26 frigates.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. 10 billion. And this is going to secure 2,000 jobs in Scotland. And then there's going to be an increase in the jobs and all the supply chain that feed in to these jobs. And these are highly skilled jobs.
This is things that people have to know, that the knock-on effect for that, it might on the face of it look like a £10 billion order for ships, right? But trust me, the wee local shops where people go and buy sandwiches, where people go and do whatever it might have to do, I think that, as you say, the trickle-down effect for this, for the surrounding areas of Govan, of Rosyth and everywhere else, this is fantastic news. Fantastic.
And it's great news for shipbuilding because, you know, there's been so much nonsense talked and I feel sorry for the workers at Ferguson Marine. It's become a political football in there. So maybe there's some knock-off, some trickle-down into Ferguson Marine because it'd be good to see the good folks there getting a bit of work as well, Willie.
Yeah, it would. And it's such a shame that probably what would have been better to happen is if BAE could have pivoted and built the sort of ships we need, right, the ferries, then the people from Ferguson could have just, you know, worked in Govan, right? And maybe there's probably a chance that there's a bit of longevity to that. So I hope that the only one word to describe it is the fiasco of what's happened with the ferries down in the Clyde. Hopefully that Ferguson Marine can recover from that, right, and go forward. But it'd be interesting to see if that will be the case going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand why governments, you know, you and I discuss and sometimes disagree about this, but I don't know why governments think that they can take over an industry like a shipbuilding and do it better than the private sector. You know, just give BAE Systems a license and say, you know what you're doing, then it takes it out of the political football because it has been a fiasco and the poor talented workforce at Ferguson Marine have been kicked up and down the Clyde, and I think that's got to stop. And surely somebody in there can go, right, we've got £10 billion. Surely the skilled workers there can see some of that.
You made the point over the years that show me a bad company and it's generally because of bad management.
Yeah.
Right. And what BAE have done is they've taken an industry that was on its knees, right? And they've come in and showed that taking over Govan shipyards and doing what they're doing, they've completely transformed. They've lifted all the doom and gloom that there was around about shipbuilding, employed all sorts of people. By the way, fantastic investment in apprenticeships.
Yes.
Right? So we've got that conveyor belt of talent coming through. So long may it continue and well done to be.
Yep. Yeah. Well done. Great bit of news. Another bit of news, friend of the show, Liz Cameron, CBE, Willie. Liz was, probably still is, the CEO of the Scottish Chambers of Commerce, but she's stepping down after 21 years at the helm. That is a heck of a time to be the CEO of the Scottish Chamber. In her own words, she described her time as entertaining and tricky at times. I think what she was getting at there, and I'd never put words in Liz's mouth, But I think what she's saying is she was a conduit between business and Holyrood and Westminster. And at times, you know, I mean, we all know of what government is getting business these days. I sometimes pull my hair out if I had any. But Liz has been a great supporter of Scottish business. She's going to be missed, Willie, but she says she's no disappearing from the scene. She's going to be continuing to support business, but in a different guise.
Yeah. Human dynamo.
Dynamo.
Best way to describe her. And she's done a fantastic job, you know, and she's been great. You know, her profile's been lifted. She's lifted the profile of business. She's been great. You know, when she has to be a Rottweiler, she's been a Rottweiler. When she's had a velvet glove on, she's had to go. I think she's done a fantastic job dealing with various types of leadership through the government over the last 21 years.
Yep.
Right. I wish her all the best. Interestingly, you know, on her statement at the end, she says, "What do you think next?" So I wonder if there's a wee clue in there, if there's something big going to happen, but it'll be interesting. But great friend of the show, we wish her all the best, and maybe we'll get her on in a few months to tell us exclusively about what she's going to be up to.
So it's not goodbye, it's just au revoir.
Yeah.
Is that French, Willie? I think. But I always used to look forward whenever I did something and I was in the press. Liz would always let me know what she thought.
Good or bad?
Good and bad.
Right.
For sure. She was mainly supportive, but if some didn't agree with her, she would tell me and we would politely disagree.
I was hoping maybe to get a wee bit more into the show before I had to talk about the Labour Party.
Oh, Willie.
But obviously we have to, because it's now been announced that the autumn budget, or whatever we're calling it, will be in November the 26th.
26th, yeah.
And to be fair, over the last few weeks, the Chancellor has been a bit quiet. And we see, obviously, they've taken Dan Jones into the government from the Treasury, who was helping her. So I think that this will be really interesting, because you know that when it's going to be bad news, it's always leaked out to the press beforehand, right?
Yes.
And if some of the things that have been leaked out are actually what's going to happen, I'm really, really concerned, right? And being a member of the Labour Party, I was very proud of the fact that we get voted in on the basis that we told people out there that we would be the party for business.
Yep.
And I've got to be honest, I hope that in this budget that we can readdress some of the things that's happened over the last year, because it's kind of difficult at the moment for me to say I can support what the party have done in relation to business. So I hope that these leaks are wrong. I don't know how you can introduce NI into housing. I don't know how that works, right? But that'll be interesting. Just call it a tax. But I sincerely hope that half of the things that have been leaked out are not true, or people in business will turn off to us.
Yeah. So at the time of the last budget, I went on Question Time and said, this is not a budget for growth. Taxing jobs is never a budget for growth, and no economy has ever taxed its way to growth. There are some clever people in there, Willie, but my goodness, they're no listening to business, in my opinion. The Bank of England has just put out a statement saying that companies are shedding workers at the fastest pace in 4 years. And this is because when I speak to people in smaller businesses right here in Scotland, some people will say, right, well, we've had a look at our cost base. Our sales are under a bit of pressure. There's still a cost of living crisis, so people don't have as much disposable income in their pockets. And for a small business now to employ someone, it costs them more. So they look at it and say, right, sales are tight, costs are up. One of the things we can do is we can say, right, I'm sorry, Willie, I'm cutting your hours or I'm paying you off.
Yes.
I mean, my goodness, that's what I told Darren Jones at the time. Mm-hmm. That is what's going to happen, and this is what I'm sorry to say I'm right, but this is what's happening. Employment is down, mm-hmm. So there's 160,000 jobs been lost in the last quarter in the UK, yeah. And you've always talked about that. So that not only are those people not paying NI, they're now going and looking for benefits.
Yes.
Now, I've got some sympathy for the Chancellor because we have borrowed as a country more than any time in the past, 30 years. But you've got to look as to why. COVID's in there, Willie.
Yeah.
It's little talked about.
Yeah.
COVID's in there. Brexit,
Yes.
frankly, has been a disaster for the UK economy.
Yes.
Very little spoke about that.
Mhm.
I mean, how Nigel Farage can come out as a leader of a political party when he instigated the thing, and it's been a disaster for the UK business. I was speaking to one business that tries to export to Europe now, Willie, and they've just given up.
Yeah.
They've just said the red tape in order to get goods between the UK and it was Spain is just a nonsense.
Yes.
And it costs them too much. And they've said no longer can they do it. So the government has borrowed lots of money. And this is not complicated. This is like you and me borrowing money. If you borrow more money, the lender looks at you and says, oh, well, you're a bit maybe over borrowed. We're going to charge you more. And just when you can't afford it, they hit you with an increase. And this is a spiral that the UK is in. We're paying the highest debt costs of any G7 country.
Yeah.
And that tells me that the people who lend the government money are a bit worried.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And a wee bit later on, I'd like to talk about that in its entirety, the whole debt situation throughout the country. But I would just say to Rachel before this budget, you'll have had over a year now by the time you get to this budget to look at what's what.
Yeah.
And all I would say to you is that look back at the policies, look back at the changes. Forget our opinion and look at what's happened.
Look at the numbers.
Here are the facts. Unemployment's up 167%. Worst news that is, half of them, 67,000 from the hospitality industry.
Hospitality's been hit, Willie.
Right. And everything else, the cost of borrowing, they're predicting now that we could be at 200% of GDP by 2050, whatever it might be. So what we have to do here is you cannot tax your way out of an economic downturn. No. You've got to have ideas for growth. And unfortunately, at the moment, for whatever we've done in the past 14 months, right, that hasn't worked.
Yep.
So it's time for a reset, time to look at it. And it's interesting that she's brought Darren Jones from the Treasury into number 10.
Right.
Now, my worry about that is he's been at the heart of most of these decisions. Right. So is he going to change?
Is he going to say I was wrong?
Well, is he going to be realistic and say, hold on a minute, we need to pivot? And by the way, that's a good politician, right? Although he's a civil servant.
Yeah.
I think that something has to be done, but I'd like to talk about that more and more, right? And because I think that we have to have a serious conversation about the debt situation in the UK.
Yep.
Right. And the only way we're going to get out of that is everyone working together to create growth. The things that we've been doing at the moment aren't working.
They're not working, Willie. And, you know, we've got 2.9 trillion, and we've talked about what a trillion is in the show before. It's just too many zeros for MD to understand. But it's equivalent of £40,000 of debt for every single person in the UK.
Yeah.
That brings it back down. Every single person in the UK is carrying £40,000 of debt on their back.
And that's only going one way.
And that's only going one way. Now, the other bit of sympathy I do have for the Chancellor is, so there's two things. We can get growth in the economy, which should take the tax take up. Now, they've failed to do that because their policies, frankly, are wrong. Let's hope they have a reset on that. And the other side is what they spend it on. And when the Chancellor has tried to look at the welfare bill or whatever, the Labour MPs to the left of the party has said, no way, Jose, we're not having it.
Yeah.
And it's been defeated. So how do we get out of this, Willie? Because on the one hand, they don't have the policies for growth. On the other hand, we're spending too much. Now, I'm all for helping people who can't help themselves, but we are wasting so much money. But whenever the Chancellor goes down a route, Labour MPs say, no, stop it.
Yeah.
So how do we get out of this?
I've got no idea, but we need clever. We need to start with getting clever people round the table in Number 10, in Horrid, whatever it might be, and people who are bold enough to make the decisions. Here's what we have to do. We need to get, we don't want to scaremonger the voters, the public, right? But they have to know the truth.
Yes.
Right? They have to know the truth that we're going to have to do something to get us out of this hole.
So I would love if the Scottish government had an ounce of sense. They would say, here's an opportunity to take Scotland in a different direction to Westminster. Let's show Westminster what pro-growth is. Let's cut our taxes. Let's bring in wealth creators. Let's create jobs. Let's get our tax take up. But there's nobody, Willie, and we're losing Kate Forbes. As far as I was concerned, she was the only minister who actually got this. I do not see anyone else in Scottish politics with this sort of common sense about where to take the country.
Well, I think just talking about Scotland now, it's been announced this week that the combined local authorities, the 32 local authorities, have got something like just under 21 billion of debt.
Wow.
And everyone, just about everyone, is declaring that they'll have a deficit this year. So again, that number is only going one way, right? So we have to ask ourselves, if we were running this as a holding company, right, when did we declare bankruptcy?
You've got a fiduciary duty as a director, Willie.
Exactly. So what we really need to do is, and you're right, I think that we are small enough where we could manoeuvre, we can pivot, and we could maybe try and introduce things in Scotland that starts to reverse that. But we have to do something. We can't, we've got all the local authorities now because of their deficits talking again about another hike in rates, right? Everyone, and the person in the street now, this is not about let's tax the rich and feed the poor, right? The ordinary man and woman in the street now are going to have to take the burden. Glasgow is showing a deficit of 66 billion or whatever it might be over the next few years, right? And we're spending, fortunes upon fortunes, right, on helping refugees, on doing whatever we're trying to do. We just need to get a bit of science as to our spend, what can we do there, and then, but the number one thing is, how do we generate more money?
Yeah, so on the local authorities, Willie, first of all, Scotland's small enough, as you say. We like small businesses. We like small. They should be able to pivot. They should be able to make decisions, be fleet of foot. 32 local authorities in Scotland is a ridiculous situation.
Yes.
We've got 3 local authorities in Ayrshire.
I know.
So we've got 3 chief execs, 3 FDs, 3 HR, 3 tech people. The time has come. I think there should be 10 local authorities in Scotland, and even that's probably 8 is the right number. But when I've put this to government in the past, oh my God, no, we
Too political.
can't do that. Too political. But so we just carry on getting slightly worse. What I call it is managed decline.
Yeah.
Nobody is grabbing the jaggy thistle here.
Yeah.
Because when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way to go.
I've got a solution
Right,
to ruin that political problem.
Come on.
Right? The 32 local authorities, you're absolutely right, that we shouldn't have that. And we shouldn't have councillors who are part-time.
Because there's huge budgets.
Absolutely.
You've educated me in this.
Glasgow, huge budget, right? So we should have full-time councillors who get paid accordingly.
Yeah.
Right? So, but let's have less of them. But how we get around the political situation is that for the politicians, let's keep the same boundaries. Right.
Okay.
So let's have so you've got your politicians there. Maybe have less, but you've still got the 32 local authorities, right?
Okay.
Let's look at shared services.
Shared services, yeah.
Right. So if you take Ayrshire, if you had one body for the civil servants, and then you had in North and South Lanarkshire or whatever you had, so there is ways that we can look there. Instead of the only answer to everything in the deficit is tax, right? Because what's going to happen very, very shortly, trust me, you're going to get anarchy.
You're going to get anarchy.
People are going to push back. And you're not talking about, I watched the new, I digress, but the new guy has been voted in by the Greens down south, the guy Polanski.
Right. Yep.
Right. Stating, Zach Polanski, saying that, the problem isn't with the boats coming in, it's with the private jets going out. By the way, no, you're certainly right about the private jets going out, right? There's no coming back.
Aye, no coming back. It's a one-way ticket.
Somebody like him has to get an education in what we're doing in relation to what it takes to pay the bills.
See, that's my issue, Willie. We want the best people managing our country.
Yeah.
It's the hardest job,
Yeah.
and yet, let's just put it out there, we do not have quality people running our country.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's maybe not popular to say it,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about across every party.
Yeah.
I want the best people. It's the hardest job.
Yeah.
So we need the best people.
Yep.
And then, but I like your shared services. I was privy to a conversation of a couple of local authorities who were doing that exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the change was coming from within
Yeah.
because they said, I'm actually stealing your tech guy.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense since we're neighbours.
Yes.
So why don't we just share the tech guy
Yep.
across? That's a great thing. And I would encourage, if there's any local authority leaders out there, start to do it.
Right.
Don't wait for the politicians to tell you to do it. I don't think they're ever going to tell them. But is this change going to happen? This is quite simple. It's shrouded in language that politicians say, oh, this is complicated. No, it's not. If we take it back to personal circumstances, if I borrow more than I'm earning, I'm in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two things I can do. I can either earn more or I can cut my spending.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yes.
That's it.
And the reality has to sink in.
It's got to sink in.
But in all the things that we have heard over the past couple of years when we get problems is no one has talked about cuts.
No. And I fear with the Scottish election coming up, probably May 26, Willie, is that when we think?
Yeah.
I think we'll see the political parties bribe the electorate once again.
Yeah.
Here's all the freebies, which we frankly can't afford, but vote for us because we're going to give you freebies.
Tom, another bit of good news.
Okay.
Coming back to a lot
Good
here.
news.
Yeah. Scottish Gas Networks this week announced that they successfully repurposed an 18-mile stretch of gas infrastructure to carry hydrogen instead of natural gas.
Okay.
While it's only a fraction of the 7,000 miles of gas pipes in the country, it's a big step forward in showing that hydrogen would potentially replace gas as a form of home heating. So then it's another wee step closer in that whole sustainability, journey. So, well done.
And do you think hydrogen is one of the answers, Willie?
I've got to be honest with you, it isn't something yet that I've used or trialled, right? But I know people are pushing for it. I've always got this thing about hydrogen. I always think it goes with a bang. Right?
Yeah.
So I never wanted the hydrogen canister in my car or no gallon gas canister in my car. But I think that there's people pushing it now. Obviously, it's greener energy. I don't actually understand or I know about the costings. So it's good. Is it cheaper? That's great. Mm-hmm. But if we're trying to get away from natural gas, then it's a step in the right direction.
Step in the right direction.
So let's hope if there's another better option. But I like to prove things for myself.
Right.
Like I'm doing with heat pumps, like I'm doing with solar and battery. So we're taking all sorts of scientific data for the houses that we've got it installed in. Some brilliant results, brilliant results. So it'll be interesting to see what hydrogen looks like.
Right. So talking about housing, we've got a new housing minister in Mary McCallan.
Yeah.
And just to remind the viewers and the listeners, the Scottish Government declared a housing emergency in May 2024. This, as far as I know, is the first statement where they're saying they're going to do something about it, Willie.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on this, so if I'm wrong, let me know. I'm sure you will. But, is it enough? Has it gone far enough? The way I see it, Willie, is it's another simple thing. We're not building enough houses. So how does the government create an environment where the private sector, it's not going to be the public sector, it's going to be the private sector who come up and build more houses. So there's been rent caps, and rent caps all around the world mean less houses are built because investors can get less return.
Yeah.
So has this bill that Mary McAllen's come out with helped?
Right. Well, what I would say is one of the things I think is really positive that Mary will be part of the cabinet. So she's cabinet secretary for housing. Right. So that they are recognising there is a problem, and that's great. So it means that she's at the table, she's in the cabinet, she's not in the outside looking in. That's great. And I think she's only been in the job a few weeks. I think the announcement last week is a big step in the right direction.
Okay.
Obviously, the devil will be in the detail.
Yep.
But what I think we have to do is give her time to see what her plans are, because she will know the announcement last week won't be enough to make the crisis go away.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's a starter for 10. But I would just say to her that if we were studying this as a problem in a business, in a sector,
yep,
here is the problem. The problem is that costs have went through the roof,
yep,
in building. The lack of availability of tradesmen is another huge. Yep. Someone told me last week that the people in the Highlands and Islands have been told that an electrician up there in the next few years will be getting paid somewhere between £50 and £75 an hour.
Wow.
Right.
Right. Okay.
This is not too long ago what they used to get paid in a week, what they were getting paid a day. Right.
Right. Okay.
So I would just say my bit of advice to the cabinet secretary to the minister is that please look at, get beneath what is wrong. Right. It's not all about more money. More money is great, right? And it's great, the announcements, 5 billion, whatever. I'd love to see if the UK government's giving more money towards housing, that they're also going to apply that so it could be even more.
Yep.
But I think, again, if she's clever about this, there is a way, right, to solve the housing crisis.
Right.
Well, I'll put my neck on the line. If I was the Minister for Housing and not building houses, I would have a plan tomorrow how to make the crisis go away.
So have you been invited in?
We've had the recess.
Okay.
I've got no doubt in the next few weeks, as I said to you before I went away, Scottish Government have been good and come involved with the project that we're doing. So I've got no doubt that somewhere or another I'll be meeting with her in the next few weeks, hopefully.
Okay. Good. Well, I mean, listen, we'll credit where credit's due, but let's see if it changes, because before the summer recess, I went in to see Kate Forbes and gave her some hard examples of investment that was not coming to Scotland because of the legislation on the build-to-rent sector.
Yeah.
And she said to me, Tom, you just got to wait and see. Yeah. I think you're going to like it. I don't think what's been announced goes far enough to change, but there was, honestly, Willie, this was hundreds of millions of pounds, which could have came to Scotland for the build-to-rent sector, but it wouldn't come here because they get a better return in Newcastle or Manchester or Birmingham or Carlisle. Yes. And that's ridiculous. That's something the government could sort tomorrow.
I am heartened a wee bit by some of the stuff that's coming out, like, they're looking at potentially that build-to-rent new builds will not be capped.
Right.
So that's great. So that should help with investment. Right.
Well, that's great.
And that's great. But I think that there is an opportunity here, and of all the things that are wrong at the moment in the government, which I wouldn't have an opinion on, this can be fixed.
This could be fixed. And every economy comes out of tough times housing-led.
Well, we've mentioned it in the past, and this would be my message to Murray. There's an opportunity here to make a name for yourself, right? And actually delivering on something, which, to be fair, no minister in the governments in the last nearly 30 years have covered themselves in glory.
No.
There is actually an opportunity here. The tools are here. But what this also does, the point you made, back before the tech boom, the amount of houses that get built was the barometer as to how the country was doing.
Yeah.
And I would say to you, Murray, there's an opportunity for you here, not just to help fix the housing crisis, but also maybe to help get the country back on its feet.
Get it back on its feet. And as you said, get the skills sorted, get the apprentices sorted, all the things you know about, and then get the country working again. Whew. Wow.
Here's hoping.
Here's hoping. So another wee bit of good news about Angel Capital Scotland. So angels in the finance sector, Willie, are known as, they are part of the 3 Fs of finance, the friends, family and fools.
Yeah.
And the angels are people who put money into early stage. And early stage is the most difficult to finance because it's the riskiest. You know, somebody's got an idea. Can that idea turn into a business? That's the risky end. But Angel Capital Scotland have got a new CEO, Margaret Morton.
I have to tell you, that was my mum's name.
Really?
Yes.
Margaret Morton?
Margaret Morton.
Wow. So, okay, I'm not quite sure what to do with that. But anyway, thanks for letting me know, Willie. And Scotland's often touted as being a great example of what happens in this angel sector. And another good bit of news there, and I've got to thank Kate Forbes because she has put her money, or our money, where our mouth is in terms of supporting Scottish Edge.
Brilliant.
So she has come out and said, okay, there's a 3-year commitment here, which is brave because it goes beyond the next Parliament.
Yes.
And she said there's 3.6 million over 3 years for Scottish Edge. And remember what Scottish Edge is. It's something that the Hunter Foundation's backed. It's something that you've backed. And this is early stage as well. And since we started Scottish Edge, run by the brilliant Evelyn MacDonald in 2012, we have funded £29 million into over 700 different businesses who have gone on to create jobs and pay their taxes and pay their national insurance. So well done, Kate. Well done also to Anna Stewart, the entrepreneur in residence now, who got this over the line. So we've got to say thank you when things go our way as well.
Well, I think we questioned this position earlier in the year. You know, what does the entrepreneur-in-chief do?
Yeah.
And it looks like that there seems to be green shoots for some of the things that we've been talking about. So that's very positive for Anna just in the role to get something over the line.
Yep.
Right. And obviously, Kate, the DFM, obviously backing it.
Yep.
So it looks like the government are listening a wee bit. But if you want to fix the problem, what we're saying here, we mentioned earlier, if you want to fix the deficit problem, these are the initiatives that you need to get the country off its knees.
And what I said,
not just because you're doing it.
No.
We need another 100 of them.
No. And this is what I said to Kate Forbes. I said, look, there are very few examples all over Western economies where private capital, so you and me and other private sector people, are matching the government pound for pound.
Yes.
So I committed to her. So the Hunter Foundation led this bit, and I said, we'll put our money where our mouth is. You need to get in as well.
Yeah.
And that, thank goodness, she listened. She's going to be missed, Willie.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Going to be
totally.
missed.
I agree. But this is a great step in the right direction where, to be fair, you see that people are listening, right? And I hope that this money will help the Edge go from strength to strength, right? This is one of the biggest success stories, right? In the past, 15 years, what's happening here since way back then, and we're involved in other initiatives before that. But people watching this, listening to this, know that this is about you and everybody putting millions in to try and help other, but you don't get anything out, right? And you're only asking the government to say, if I'm putting my money where my mouth is, come and match it. And I would say that this again demonstrates that, again, about being small enough to change. Scotland has one of the best ecosystems for entrepreneurship than any country, I think, in the world.
I think so, Willie.
Right. And this will only enhance it.
I study these things, trying to bring the best to Scotland.
Yeah.
And another thank you to Adrian Gillespie at Scottish Enterprise.
Yeah.
They don't really have the budget to put money into this, but they give us people from Scottish Enterprise come and work at Edge.
Yeah.
And that's a two-way process. They go back to Scottish Enterprise, better understanding the ecosystem, and Edge understand Scottish Enterprise a bit better. So thank you, Adriana. Hopefully you're going to keep supporting us with people coming from Scottish Enterprise to work in Edge. So thank you.
I've got no doubt that the results and the actions of Edge over the next few years with that commitment will take Edge to another level.
Yeah, I hope so.
But we'll wait and see. I think good news, I couldn't wait to talk about this story.
Right.
You know, my kind of wee tension, between Glasgow and Edinburgh. It's great to see that Glasgow has just fallen on for the last segment, that Glasgow has had more start-up businesses this year than Edinburgh.
Wow.
Absolutely delighted.
Wow.
And it's up 8% in the previous year as a leap forward. Glasgow's still an attractive place to start a business. So if anybody's watching this, listen to this, right? Take those two things together we've just been talking about. This is the place to start a business. There is help, there is support, there is finance. You don't need to keep going to Fools and Friends, right? Although it does help. But I think that's a fantastic bit of news. And by the way, whoever's responsible at Glasgow, if the council and, the gateway, whatever it might be, well done to all them. Well done. This is great news. And this is what we want to be talking about all the time. This is the answer to the deficit, not taxing people to death.
That's it. And just another wee example, while this goes out on the air on Sunday, I'll be with Sir Chris Haughey, getting the Edinburgh Kilt Walk off in Edinburgh on Sunday morning. Now, Glasgow has beat Edinburgh again, Willie. We had 19,000 people take place in the Glasgow Kilt Walk. Edinburgh's going to be about half that. It's still a record number.
Yeah.
But come on, Edinburgh. Give Glasgow a run for its money.
Yeah.
So Sunday morning, we'll see you there in Edinburgh with Sir Chris Haughey, raising money for charities you care about and charities that Chris Haughey cares about.
Brilliant. Well, I wish you all the best in Edinburgh.
Thank you.
I think something else that, talk a wee bit of doom and gloom.
Okay.
Right? So
you've been very positive,
yeah,
Willie.
we have, but we kind of shy away for the negatives.
Right.
And I think that, there's been private sector survey of the SMEs where people are, let's say, not optimistic about growth in the next year and what's happening to small businesses. And I think 80% of the businesses surveyed think there's a bit of a risk to the business over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Right. And if you couple that with the Bank of England survey saying that job cuts at the fastest rate in 4 years, these are things that we have to worry about. And we have to, putting those two stories together tells you everything. And then we started it off by the 167,000. I said 14 months ago that very, very soon that the unemployment number would be over 5%.
Right.
And unfortunately, it looks as if I'm going to be right.
Ugh.
Right. And that is not...
I hate it when you're right.
Right, I know. But I think that things like we've just been talking about, investing in startup, tech, all of this stuff, we can help redress this. But I hope that we can get much more optimism among SMEs. Right. They're the lifeblood of business.
And that's where the growth comes from, Willie. We talked about it earlier. If there's a small business there and employing, say, 5 people, but sales are a bit tight, costs are up, the easy bit to go is to cut the workforce.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's less NI going into the exchequer.
Yeah.
There's less tax going to the exchequer. You get a double whammy. If I pay you off, you go and get a benefit. So, this is quite straightforward. Encourage these businesses. And I would just say, and I know it's probably a political move by Rachel Reeves moving the budget further out to try and get some good news.
Yes.
But it creates this uncertainty for longer. Yeah. And when there's a vacuum, people go to the dark side and they think the worst.
Yeah, and it's funny you say
is that fair, Willie?
Yeah, I think it's definitely fair. And it's worse than that because the way that some of the SMEs, especially in hospitality, right, are doing it is like they're closing on a Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Right, and you don't want to be into your city centre when half or 3/4 of the shops are closed.
No.
Because that will end up as a ghost town.
Yes.
Right, that's what happened. You'll end up closing on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Right, if people are not used to coming to you, they won't come. And I think that's a worry. But on the budget, I did see that the Scottish government, the Chancellor, or Shona Robson, was saying yesterday that this is not helpful, the budget being so late.
Right,
so
because they need to follow, is that right, Willie?
Yeah, but when they'll be ready with everything if that happens and that happens. Right, so let's have two scenarios.
You're never going to get an SNP government saying, "Oh, that's great, Labour, thank you very much," in Westminster. It's not going to happen. But anyway,
let's talk about the big picture.
Right.
And the news this week, the devastating news that gilts and bonds are heading to a level that they haven't seen for 30 years.
Yep.
Right. And we touched on it
we
earlier.
touched on it earlier, yeah.
But people watching this, listening to this, who maybe don't understand, this is the worst news of all the things we've been talking about. This is the things that
I know I couldn't keep you positive all the way.
No. But I'm saying that I think it just highlights the point that I'm making about growth, right? Because it looks like now, because of that, I mean, this is a Liz Truss moment, right?
Well, gilts are more expensive than Liz Truss.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
So the effect that this has in pensions and everything out there, this is huge. So whatever is going to be in the budget on the 26th of November, I hope that Rachel has got something up her sleeve that's going to actually do something about the cost of borrowing.
Yeah.
Right, because that is the biggest nightmare that the government has. I don't think there's any wriggle room left.
I don't think there's any wriggle room left, but maybe she's hoping that if she delays it by 4 weeks, there'll be better news. It's kind of desperate stuff, Willie. And it does make me think, we are in worse state than perhaps even I thought. So maybe just to finish up, the Hunter Foundation has launched ahead of the Scottish elections next year, 2026, one section of the population who I don't think gets listened to enough is the kids in school. We ran a competition when we brought Barack Obama over to Scotland, and it was won by a pupil, Mila, of Highland Academy in Glasgow, and we asked the question, if you ruled Scotland. And that's what we're asking every Scottish school pupil, primary and secondary, every school in Scotland. If you ruled Scotland, what would you like to see in this election? What do you want from your politicians? What do you want to change? And you can send in a video, you can send in paper, you can do whatever suits you to thehunterfoundation.co.uk. The winning school gets £5,000 for their school. And they also get invited up to our conference at Gleneagles, where they can tell the powers that be in Scotland, this is what we want to see happening. And they also get to work with Columba 1400 and a young person's leadership academy for their school. It's worth about £30,000. There's also 2 runners-up. So if you're out there, if you're a teacher, a mum or a dad or a pupil, what would you do if you ruled Scotland? Get your entries into the Hunter Foundation. Take our money and change Scotland for the better.
Well, I think that's a brilliant initiative, and what a bit of research that is for the politicians, right? So, and I've got no doubt that one of the questions that will back straight away will be how long before they can vote, right? So did that come from the P7s, the P14s, or whatever it might be? But I think it's another great initiative, and I hope that the politicians listen once the survey is. I might actually put a wee couple of entries in myself.
Get them in.
Willie for Holyrood.
Willie,
P8.
Willie in his short trousers and his cap, I can see it in your backpack there.
Well, after 8 weeks off, this is the first week back, so we hope all the listeners, all the viewers, that if you're watching or listening, that you've enjoyed it. And what we're looking at maybe doing is changing the format a wee bit. There might be more talk with us. We'll get special guests in. The problem is we've kind of ran out of special guests.
Wow.
Right? But we're still going to sprinkle it with wee, bit of angel dust now and again. We'll have a good guest next week.
Right. Okay.
I believe Anna Stewart's going to come on the
Anna
programme
comes,
next week
if
we can get it confirmed.
Great.
Right, so that'll be a good start, and we'll have a better understanding about what the entrepreneur-in-chief does.
And if I can just ask the viewers, what do you think of Willie's spent his holiday money on the studio here? I think it looks amazing. What do you think? If you have any ideas of what you want Willie and I to talk about, if you're a business out there, what's on your mind, we want to get that debated.
Yeah.
And don't get too despondent in the stuff you can't control. You can't control the national debt. So just get on, concentrate in your business, what you can control, what you can do day in, day out, because we need you to succeed.
Yeah, and we're going to change the format from the board you can't afford.
Are we?
Well, yes, we'll tell you more about that next week. But
Are you going to tell me as well?
Yeah, I'll definitely tell you before
Thanks,
next
Willie.
week. Right. So hope everybody enjoyed the show this week, and we look forward to talking to you next week.